Ah, there you are, at last. The mountains outside are dark and silent. But here, by the crackling fire, there is only safety and warmth. Tonight's story is one of journeys, both far and near, and of a hidden truth waiting in the quiet places of the heart. Come, let's begin. The wind rattled the wooden shutters of the cabin, sending little shivers through the sturdy beams, snow swirling wildly outside like tiny silver dancers, and Rowan moved quietly across the creaking floor, shaking out his woolen coat, feeling the cold bite at his fingertips, the fireplace crackling beside him, offering a warm, comforting hum, its light flickering across the pine walls, making the cabin glow like a hidden treasure in the storm. He set his pack down, brushing the snowflakes from its straps, and listened carefully to the wind as it moaned around the corners, whispering secrets only the mountains knew, while the scent of burning wood filled his nose, rich and calming, wrapping around him like a well-worn blanket, promising warmth in the long night ahead. Rowan's eyes lingered on the small table by the fire, where he had placed a steaming mug of herbal tea, steam curling lazily toward the low wooden ceiling, and he breathed in slowly, letting the warmth seep into his chest, feeling a quiet peace that always came before a storm. His thoughts drifting to old memories of winters past, of snow settling softly on the trees, and the hush that seemed to press down over everything, gentle yet full of anticipation, as if the mountains themselves were holding their breath, while outside the gusts pushed the snow into little drifts against the cabin door, making the world beyond a blur of white. He knelt by the fireplace, poking at the glowing embers, shifting them carefully with a metal rod, watching the flames dance with sudden sparks that jumped like fireflies, and his mind wandered to the preparations he had made for the storm, checking his gear one last time, ropes coiled neatly, lanterns ready, extra blankets stacked on the bunk, a small supply of dried food in the corner, the familiar rhythm of readiness comforting him, a quiet ritual he had learned from his grandfather, who had once told him that the mountains respected those who respected them, teaching Rowan patience and care as he hummed softly to himself, the sound swallowed by the howl of the wind. Then, just as he reached for the last bundle of firewood, there came a sound that made his heart skip, a slow, deliberate knock at the cabin door, echoing in the snug room like a question, and Rowan froze, the mug trembling slightly in his hand, a shiver running down his spine, though not entirely from the cold, for he had expected the storm to be his only company. Yet here was a visitor, mysterious and untimely, the wind carrying their presence like a faint shadow across the snow, making the trees groan and the beams creak, the sense of isolation pressing against him as he weighed the choice to answer, curiosity tugging at him gently like a familiar friend. He stepped carefully toward the door, boots crunching softly on the wooden floor, feeling the warmth of the fire fading with every step, hands brushing the pine walls as though drawing courage from them, his thoughts a swirl of caution and intrigue, remembering tales his grandfather had told of travelers lost in storms, some seeking refuge, others carrying secrets, the cold seeping through the cracks around the door, biting at his cheeks, the scent of snow and pine mingling with the smoky air, and when he finally reached the door, His hand hovered over the latch, heart steadying, mind alert, wondering what story this unexpected knock might bring. The cozy cabin holding its breath with him, Rowan opened the door slowly, and the storm outside seemed to bow back just a little. Flakes clinging to his coat, the muffled roar of wind softened for a moment, and there stood the traveler, cloaked and weary, a faint trail of snow dusting their shoulders, and Rowan felt the quiet thrill of mystery brushing his skin, the promise of adventure whispering through the swirling snow. While the cabin behind him glowed softly, a beacon of warmth, the firelight spilling onto the threshold, and Rowan stepped aside, welcoming the unknown, as the night seemed to lean in closer, curious and expectant. The wind whipped around the cabin, carrying icy needles that stung the cheeks, and Rowan held the door open just enough to peer into the swirling snow, squinting through the white blur, when a figure emerged, stepping carefully, each movement slow and deliberate, a cloak heavy with frost clinging to their shoulders, boots crunching quietly on the snow, and Rowan felt a shiver, not entirely from the cold, as curiosity danced along his spine, the storm outside roaring like a wild thing, while the warm, pine-scented air of the cabin reached out like a safe hand, promising welcome if the stranger dared to step inside. The traveler paused, looking up with eyes that seemed both weary and bright, holding something pressed against their chest, and Rowan noticed a rolled-up piece of parchment, edges frayed, surface mottled with age, the faint smell of old paper rising when the wind shifted, hinting at journeys long past, and the traveler's fingers, pale from cold, trembled slightly as they handed him the map, voice soft yet steady, asking if he could see it, if he might help follow where it led, and Rowan's gaze traced the lines and symbols, ancient and faded, imagining mountains untouched by snow, rivers hidden beneath evergreen canopies, valleys whispered of in old legends. Rowan stepped inside, closing the door against the storm with a firm hand. Snowflakes skittering across the floor before melting into tiny puddles near the hearth, and he gestured to a chair near the fire, feeling the warmth wash over the stranger like sunlight after a long night, watching as they settled, their cloak dropping to reveal hints of travel-worn leather boots and a scarf frayed at the ends. The map carefully unfurled across their knees, curling slightly from age and moisture, and Rowan felt the pull of adventure tug at his heart, the map promising something both dangerous and breathtaking, something that might never have been seen by human eyes. He took the map gently, fingers brushing the stranger's, feeling the weight of its history, and studied the winding trails and strange markings, some familiar, some indecipherable, the lines hinting at a valley untouched by winter, shrouded in mystery and allure, and Rowan's mind buzzed with questions, wonder and caution, thinking of the storms he had survived, the mountains he had traversed, and the stories his grandfather had told of hidden places that demanded respect, while his heart whispered, could this be one of those legends? A secret waiting just beyond the reach of ordinary travelers. As the fire crackled, Rowan leaned back, letting the warmth seep into his bones, watching the stranger's face soften in relief, their shivers slowing, and he found himself speaking quietly. You've come a long way in this storm. It must have been hard, and the traveler nodded, voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know where else to go. I needed someone who could guide me safely, and Rowan's heart swelled with a mixture of caution and empathy. Imagining the journey yet to come, the snow-covered peaks that might hide beauty or peril, and feeling the thrill of something extraordinary waiting just beyond the cabin walls, he poured another cup of tea, steam curling upward, mingling with the scent of pine and fire, and for a moment they sat in companionable silence, the storm roaring outside, snow piling against the windows, and Rowan thought of the comfort of the cabin, the crackling warmth, the trust beginning to grow between him and this mysterious traveler, while outside the wind whispered of distant mountains and hidden valleys, enticing, beckoning, promising adventure. And as the traveler traced a finger along the map's faded lines, Rowan realized the night was not yet over. The storm outside a curtain hiding the first steps of a journey, and in the hush of the cabin, he felt the pull of curiosity and wonder, imagining the valley that waited, unseen and magical, just beyond the swirling snow. The fire crackled softly, sending tiny sparks dancing into the air, and Rowan stood by the window, watching snow swirl like silver ribbons outside, brushing against the glass in the wind's gentle insistence. While his thoughts drifted to tales his grandfather had whispered long ago of hidden valleys untouched by snow, where rivers gleamed like liquid silver and flowers bloomed, even in the coldest months. And he could almost hear his grandfather's voice, low and warm, telling him that such places were both beautiful and dangerous, meant only for those brave enough to seek them carefully. The traveler sat nearby, cloak draped loosely over their shoulders, holding the ancient map as if it were the most precious thing in the world, their eyes bright with a mixture of hope and exhaustion. And Rowan listened to their quiet insistence, voice trembling slightly, yet firm. I swear the map is real. It will lead us there. I've followed hints for years, and Rowan's fingers traced the faded lines, imagining the hidden valley beneath the snow, a place that might be legend or reality, and a spark of curiosity, long dormant, flickered to life, warming his chest against the chill that seeped in from the windows. He moved to the corner where his packs were stacked, pulling out rope, lanterns, extra blankets, and dried food, laying each item carefully on the floor, feeling the familiar comfort of preparation, the weight of responsibility settling like a familiar coat around his shoulders, while the traveler watched quietly, their breath misting in the warm air, and Rowan thought aloud, if this valley exists, we must be careful. It won't forgive carelessness. And as he packed, he remembered the winters he had faced alone, snowstorms that howled like wolves and cliffs that hid sudden dangers, and the thrill of adventure mingled with caution, a reminder that some risks were worth taking. Rowan's thoughts drifted to other journeys, the ones where he had learned patience, skill, and trust in the mountains, and now, with the storm battering the cabin, he felt that familiar pull, that whisper of possibility, telling him that tonight could be the beginning of something extraordinary. The map promising not just discovery, but wonder, and he glanced at the traveler, shivering despite the fire, eyes shining with expectation, and Rowan's heart softened, feeling a quiet sense of guardianship, knowing that together they might uncover a secret the world had never seen. He finished packing, slinging the pack over his shoulder, the leather warm and familiar beneath his hands. and offered the traveler another cup of tea, the steam curling upward, carrying the piney scent of the cabin into their faces. And he spoke softly, "We'll follow the map carefully, step by step, and see where it leads." And the traveler nodded, relief and excitement mingling in their expression. The cabin quiet except for the fire's whisper and the storm's distant roar. A pause before the journey, a moment full of both comfort. Outside, the snow fell in thick, soft layers, blanketing the world in silver, while Rowan and the traveler shared a quiet understanding, the promise of adventure hanging between them like the faint glow of stars behind storm clouds. And Rowan felt a thrill that was part fear, part excitement, knowing the mountains would test them, but also offer wonders if they were brave enough to continue. And as he gazed through the window once more, the snow swirling and glowing in the firelight, he knew the path ahead was uncertain. But some discoveries, he thought, are worth every risk. And with a final glance at the cozy cabin behind them, Rowan felt the quiet pulse of the mountains calling, the hidden valley waiting just beyond the storm, a secret wrapped in snow and legend, ready to be found. Snow swirled around them like a living thing, whipping against their faces and stinging their cheeks, and Rowan tightened his scarf, boots crunching against the thick blanket of snow on the mountain path, while the wind howled in the trees, carrying with it the scent of pine and ice, sharp and bracing. Each step a careful negotiation with slippery rocks hidden beneath white powder, and the traveler followed closely, cloak pressed tight, breath puffing in little clouds. Trusting Rowan's sure movements, the trail twisted sharply, narrow ledges edged by sheer drops, and Rowan's eyes scanned every footstep, memorizing the subtle curves of the snow and the faint shadows hinting at hidden cliffs. His hands steady on the traveler's shoulder as he guided them across a particularly icy stretch, feeling the tremble in their fingers and offering quiet words of encouragement. Careful here, step where I step, and together they moved, the rhythm of their steps mingling with the roar of the storm, the cold biting at noses and fingertips, but a shared warmth lingering in the space between them. Sudden gusts tugged at their cloaks, pushing them backward as they climbed higher, and Rowan's heart thumped in his chest, not with fear, but with awareness. Every creak of the snow beneath their feet a warning, each icy patch a challenge to their careful progress. And as they pressed on, Rowan spotted a faint outline of a cabin, almost swallowed by snow and time, its wooden walls gray and worn, smoke absent but promise of shelter etched in its crooked lines. And a sigh of relief escaped both of them as they stumbled inside, boots shedding snow, hands rubbing warmth into frozen fingers inside. The cabin smelled of damp wood and earth, shadows stretching across walls from the single small hearth, empty yet protective, and Rowan leaned against the door, letting the traveler rest on a bench while he poked at the remains of the fireplace, imagining how it might once have held warmth against storms like this, the firelight flickering softly, giving the room a golden glow that felt like a small miracle against the raging blizzard outside. And Rowan whispered, almost to himself, even in the harshest winters, there's always a place to breathe. He watched the traveler, shivering but smiling faintly, eyes bright despite fatigue, and his heart felt a quiet swell of pride and tenderness. Thinking of all the storms he had crossed alone. All the nights spent learning patience and caution from the mountains themselves, and now sharing this trial with someone who trusted him fully, whose hope for the hidden valley mirrored the spark he felt in his own chest, the sense of purpose mingling with the cold and wind, making each step they had taken feel both dangerous and sacred. Rowan's thoughts lingered on the paths ahead, knowing the storm would not relent soon. But the moment in the cabin offered a gentle pause, a heartbeat of warmth and safety. The wind's roar softened to a whisper at the door. Snowflakes dancing in the firelight through the small window, and he allowed himself to imagine the valley, hidden somewhere beyond these slopes, waiting patiently as if it had been waiting for them all along. And as night fell, the storm swirling like silver threads outside, Rowan and the traveler sat together near the hearth, sharing quiet conversation and sips of tea, the little cabin holding them like a secret, a tiny island of warmth in the frozen mountains, while beyond, the snow promised challenges and wonders still to come, the journey just beginning. The moon hung low over the snow-covered peaks, spilling silver light across the path, and Rowan's boots crunched softly against the frozen earth as he led the traveler through a narrow pass, the wind whispering through the pines like secrets carried from ages past, when suddenly he noticed faint lines etched into the rocks, delicate and precise, almost hidden beneath the frost, and he leaned closer, fingers brushing the cold stone, feeling the grooves of carvings worn smooth by time and snow. The traveler's eyes lit up as they knelt beside the markings, tracing each symbol gently, voice soft, yet full of certainty. These are old, very old, from a civilization that worshipped the land. The valley you seek has been known to them for centuries. These carvings are their messages, and Rowan listened, intrigued as the traveler interpreted each shape, explaining legends of a hidden place where winter never touched the ground. Rivers flowed like molten silver under eternal sunlight, and creatures of strange beauty roamed free, the words wrapping around Rowan's imagination like a warm scarf against the cold night. They moved along the path slowly, careful not to disturb the snow or the stories embedded in the stones. And Rowan noticed more markers tucked behind trees, hidden in the folds of the mountain, each one glowing faintly under the moonlight, almost as if the carvings themselves were alive, whispering of the valley's secrets, of a people long forgotten but not entirely lost. And the traveler shared tales of explorers and guardians who had once tried to reach the valley but were turned back by storms or misfortune, the knowledge making Rowan feel the weight and wonder of their journey as they walked. Rowan's thoughts drifted to the stories his grandfather had told him, of hidden wonders waiting for those patient enough to follow the mountain's quiet directions. And he realized that this journey was not just about reaching the valley, but understanding the lives, dreams, and struggles of those who had come before. The carvings teaching him humility and reverence, a gentle reminder that discovery was as much about listening to history as it was about seeing the world. The cold air pressed against his cheeks, carrying the sense of pine and frost, while the traveler's voice hummed softly with excitement and reverence, describing symbols of sun, water, and guardians of the valley. And Rowan felt a quiet warmth in his chest, a mix of awe and respect, imagining the hands that had carved these messages, imagining their hopes and fears, and he spoke gently. "It feels as though they are still here, watching over the valley, waiting for us to understand." And the traveler nodded, eyes wide and bright, their own shiver softened by the fire of fascination. The path wound higher, and the carvings seemed to grow more intricate, telling stories that danced in the moonlight. A tapestry of civilization, magic, and nature intertwined. The quiet crunch of snow underfoot blending with the whispers of the carvings and the distant howl of the wind. Rowan, feeling the thrill of discovery mixed with the hush of reverence. The valley waiting beyond the mountain, elusive yet promised. And as they paused to rest beneath a rocky overhang, the carvings glowing faintly, Rowan looked up at the stars, peeking through the clouds, imagining the valley just ahead, hidden in the mist and mountains, a secret waiting for their careful steps, the night holding its breath with them, while their hearts carried the gentle wonder of stories old and new, ready to continue the journey at first light. The wind had softened to a gentle whisper as Rowan and the traveler reached a ridge high above the valley below, the snow crunching softly beneath their boots, stars scattering like silver dust across the dark sky. And Rowan spread the thick blanket on the frozen ground, while the traveler carefully unpacked a small, foldable stove. The scent of pine and crisp winter air mingling with the faint warmth of shared effort. The mountains stretching endlessly around them. Silent yet alive, they built a small fire. Sparks rising and vanishing into the cold night. The warmth a golden circle against the deep blue shadows of the ridge. And Rowan leaned back, boots resting near the flames, watching the traveler's face glow in flickering light, while he listened to the wind sigh through the pines, carrying the soft rustle of distant trees and the echo of their own footsteps along the snow, the world feeling both immense and intimate at the same time. As the fire crackled, the traveler spoke quietly of journeys long past, of forests crossed and rivers waded, of nights spent alone under starlit skies, and Rowan shared stories too, of climbs that tested him and storms that nearly turned him back, memories of friends lost to avalanches and nights when hope seemed as fragile as a thin sheet of ice, their words weaving together a tapestry of trust. Small silences filling with understanding, and Rowan felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the fire, a gentle companionship blooming in the cold. Beyond the firelight, shadows danced across the snow, and Rowan's sharp eyes caught a fleeting figure, darker than the night, moving with quiet purpose among the trees. And he tensed slightly, hand resting on the strap of his pack, wondering if it was a wandering traveler, a mountain creature, or something else entirely, the mystery sending a shiver of both caution and excitement through him, while the traveler noticed too and whispered, "Do you see it?" Rowan nodded, replying softly, "Mountains have their secrets. Let's keep the fire close." And their quiet voices seemed to merge with the sighing wind, a lullaby of vigilance and trust. Rowan watched the stars reflected in the frost that clung to the ridge, breath visible in the cold air, the firelight painting warm hues on snow and skin, and he felt the pulse of the mountains beneath him, ancient and steady, alive with whispers of hidden valleys and untold stories. While the traveler leaned back against a pack, sipping warm tea, eyes distant yet alert, and Rowan thought about the journey ahead. the risks and wonders mingling like the smoke rising from their fire, filling the night with promise and mystery. The cold pressed softly against their cheeks, the scent of pine mingling with the smoke, while small animal tracks glimmered faintly in the snow beyond, hinting at creatures moving unseen, reminding Rowan that the mountains were alive, watching, breathing, and guiding. And he felt a quiet thrill, a hush of awe, knowing that tomorrow's path would carry both danger and beauty, each step a conversation with the world around them. And as they lay under the stars, the fire's glow fading to embers, Rowan closed his eyes for a moment, imagining the valley hidden somewhere beyond the mountains, waiting patiently while the wind sang softly around them, carrying secrets and stories through the night, a gentle promise of adventure yet to come. The first light of dawn spilled softly over the mountain peaks, melting the shadows of the night and setting the snow aglow with a pale, golden shimmer, and Rowan's boots crunched carefully against the frost-hardened path as he led the traveler forward, the cold air crisp in their lungs, carrying the faint scent of pine and earth beneath the winter blanket, while birds, small and bright, chirped tentative greetings to the new day, their calls echoing lightly across the ridges as they rounded a bend. Rowan's sharp eyes caught faint footprints pressed into the snow, unusual and deliberate, winding like a secret message through the drifts, and he knelt, brushing snow from the impressions, noticing how deep they sank, in some places, shallower in others, the traveler crouching beside him with eager curiosity, tracing the prints with gloved fingers, whispering softly, "These must be guides left by someone who knows the way, markers to the valley," and Rowan nodded, feeling the quiet thrill of discovery stirring. A heartbeat of excitement against the serene dawn, they followed the trail cautiously, stepping over icy bridges that groaned beneath their weight, navigating narrow ledges along sheer cliffs, Rowan alert to every subtle shift in snow and rock, guiding the traveler around hidden crevasses and warning of loose stones. Each step a careful conversation with the mountains, the sunlight sparkling off the frost like scattered diamonds, revealing paths that had been invisible in the storm. And Rowan felt the familiar comfort of knowing how to read the world, how to trust the mountains while keeping them safe as they walked. Rowan's mind wandered to the importance of attention, patience, and care, the lessons he had learned over countless journeys, and he shared them quietly, voice low. Every footprint tells a story. We just have to listen carefully. And the traveler smiled, eyes bright with admiration and trust, saying, "I'm glad you're with me. I'd never manage this alone." And Rowan felt a warmth bloom in his chest, a mixture of pride, companionship, and the gentle joy of guiding someone through beauty and danger alike. The sun climbed higher, the snow sparkling brighter, the footprints leading them around hidden cliffs and icy slopes that could have been treacherous in a moment of distraction. And Rowan kept his senses tuned, eyes scanning for the faintest signs of instability, ears listening for subtle creaks and shifts in the snow, while the traveler followed with quiet determination, each small misstep met with Rowan's soft guidance, hands brushing briefly in reassurance when the snow threatened to slide underfoot. Between careful steps, they paused to breathe, the cold air filling their lungs and carrying with it the scents of frost, pine, and the faint warmth of the sun creeping over the mountains. And Rowan thought about how every journey required balance, trust, and attention, realizing that the valley was not just a destination, but a story unfolding beneath their feet, each footprint a line in the tale, a whisper from those who had walked before, guiding them toward wonder. And as the trail stretched ahead, glowing softly in the morning light, Rowan felt a quiet sense of anticipation, imagining the hidden valley waiting just beyond the next rise, a secret wrapped in snow and sunlight, ready to reveal its mysteries to those patient and careful enough to follow its subtle signs. A soft hush fell over the mountains as Rowan and the traveler approached the pass, the early morning sun struggling to pierce a thick veil of mist that rolled like silver waves between the peaks, and each step on the frost-tipped path echoed quietly, swallowed almost instantly by the dense fog, while the scent of damp pine and cold earth mingled with the crisp chill in the air, carrying a strange, almost magical promise that something extraordinary waited just beyond. The map trembled slightly in the traveler's gloved hands, worn lines glowing faintly in the diffused light, and they whispered, "This is it, the entrance." Voice hushed, as if speaking too loudly might break the spell of the mist. And Rowan nodded, heart thumping in rhythm with the soft crunch of snow beneath their boots, eyes scanning the path carefully, each rock and root seeming more mysterious than usual, aware that the mountains held secrets and that this pass could be both a gateway and a test. Rowan took the lead, feeling the subtle shifts beneath his boots, guiding the traveler along narrow paths where a misstep could send them slipping into shadows below, his hand brushing briefly against the traveler's shoulder when the fog grew thick, a silent reassurance that they were together. And as the mist swirled around them, glowing faintly with an otherworldly light, he whispered softly, "Stay close, step where I step. The valley waits, but we must be careful." The words carrying a mixture of awe and caution. They moved slowly, each footfall deliberate, the mist wrapping around them like a soft, luminous curtain, hiding the edges of the cliff and the depths of the pass, while the traveler followed with quiet trust, occasionally pointing to faint shapes emerging from the fog, patterns in the rocks that matched the symbols on the map. And Rowan felt the familiar thrill of discovery mingle with tension, the mountains alive with whispers of unseen wonders, promising both beauty and danger. The air felt thick with anticipation, scented with damp stone and frost, the faint glow of the mist casting shifting shadows across the narrow trail. While Rowan's mind traced stories his grandfather had told of hidden places, imagining the valley just beyond, alive and untouched, waiting for those patient and careful enough to reach it. And he spoke gently, almost there, "Keep your heart steady and your steps light," voice soft, carrying reassurance as much as instruction. Every movement was measured, every glance attentive, the traveler's eyes wide with wonder, reflecting the misty light, their breath curling like tiny clouds in the cold, while Rowan felt the pulse of the mountains beneath him, sensing that they were guiding him, testing him, welcoming those who moved with respect and care. And a quiet connection settled between them, a shared understanding that the journey itself was a part of the valley's secret, teaching patience, courage, and awe. And as they rounded the final bend, the mist shimmered like liquid silver, revealing just a hint of green beyond the first glimpse of the valley peeking through, a soft promise of beauty hidden behind clouds and fog. Rowan's heart quickened with wonder, and he knew that what lay ahead was more than a destination. It was a dream waiting patiently, ready to be discovered step by careful step. The mist lifted like a gentle curtain, drifting upward to reveal a valley bathed in soft sunlight, and Rowan stepped forward, boots crunching softly on the mossy ground, the air fragrant with the scent of wildflowers and damp earth, while a faint hum of waterfalls echoed from somewhere unseen, carrying the rhythm of life through the vibrant, untouched landscape. The traveler gasped softly, eyes wide with wonder, hands outstretched toward plants that glimmered faintly in the sun, petals sparkling as though dusted with morning dew, and Rowan smiled quietly, feeling the magic of the valley seep into his bones. Every step revealing more, tiny streams weaving through green meadows, ferns brushing their legs, and creatures with shimmering feathers flitting from branch to branch, curious yet unafraid, the harmony of nature and enchantment unfolding around them. They wandered along narrow paths, exploring hidden glades where sunlight scattered like gold over flowers and crystal-clear pools. The traveler kneeling to touch petals, murmuring softly, "It's more beautiful than I ever imagined," while Rowan observed quietly, reflecting on the delicate balance of the valley, how the magic seemed woven seamlessly into the natural world, each creature, plant, and waterfall existing in perfect accord, and he whispered gently, "This place has waited a long time for someone to see it and respect it." As they moved, the sound of water became a lullaby, a soft melody guiding their steps, while the sunlight warmed their shoulders and danced across the leaves, shadows shifting like living patterns on the forest floor, and Rowan felt a deep peace, a rare kind that comes only when the world around you is entirely unspoiled, untouched by hurry or harm. The valley itself, teaching patience, reverence, and quiet awe. The traveler's eyes sparkled as they spotted a pair of birds with feathers glinting like liquid gold, singing in harmony from a high branch, and Rowan paused, listening to the gentle music, feeling it echo in his chest, a reminder of why some places must remain secret, protected by mountains and mist, a reward for those who move with care and respect. And he thought of the journey here, the storms and footprints, the trust shared in cold nights and misty paths, realizing that every step had led to this moment of wonder. Soft moss cushioned their feet as they approached a waterfall cascading into a hidden pool, mist rising in tiny rainbowed tendrils, the traveler dipping a hand into the water and smiling, water trickling through their fingers like liquid sunlight, while Rowan crouched beside them, letting the serene beauty wash over him, every sound, scent, and shimmer grounding him in a quiet gratitude, a reverence for both the valley and the journey that had brought them here. They wandered slowly, savoring each detail, the sunlight scattering over streams, the gentle calls of shimmering birds, the soft rustle of leaves in a warm breeze, and Rowan felt a deep connection to the land, to the magic interlaced with reality, the reward for perseverance, patience, and courage. And he whispered to the traveler, voice gentle, "This valley is alive in every sense, and it will remember us if we honor it." And as they stood together on a small rise, sunlight spilling across the valley, the waters sparkling and creatures moving quietly around them. Rowan knew that this place, hidden and beautiful, would stay with them forever, a secret carried gently in their hearts. While beyond, the mountains waited silently, holding still more mysteries for those who dared to follow. The morning sun shimmered softly on the edge of the hidden valley, filtering through mist that clung like a delicate veil over the flowers and streams. And Rowan knelt beside a sparkling pool, watching ripples dance in the gentle light, the hum of unseen creatures blending with the quiet rustle of leaves, while a warm breeze carried the scent of earth and blossoms, whispering that this place was alive, ancient, and sacred. The traveler moved carefully beside him, notebook open, sketching and jotting observations with a quiet reverence, eyes wide with wonder. And Rowan spoke softly, voice low and gentle. This place, it isn't ours to share freely. It has its own rhythm and secrets. And the traveler nodded, pencil pausing midline. I promise, we protect it. No one else will know. The words carrying weight, a solemn oath that seemed to make the air itself shimmer with approval. They spent the morning wandering through hidden glades, dipping hands in crystal-clear streams, marveling at birds with feathers that glinted like sunlight on water, and flowers that seemed to hum with life. Rowan guiding the traveler along safe paths, careful not to disturb any living thing. Every step a conversation with the land, teaching patience and reverence, while the valley seemed to lean closer, holding them gently, almost as if acknowledging their respect. Rowan's heart swelled with quiet pride and awe, knowing that some wonders are meant to remain hidden, treasured in memory rather than displayed to the world. And he whispered, almost to himself, we carry the magic in our hearts now, while the traveler glanced up from the notebook, smiling, and every detail is ours, safe and sacred. And they exchanged a look filled with trust and understanding, a bond forged in silence and shared wonder. The path back was familiar, yet strange, the mist rolling in like a soft curtain, erasing the valley from sight as they retraced their steps through narrow passes and over sparkling snow. Rowan guiding carefully, watching for hidden dangers, the mountains around them echoing with quiet approval, crags and pines seeming to nod as if acknowledging their care, the wind carrying a soft, approving sigh. The air was crisp, scented with pine and frost, each breath curling in the cold, while the snow underfoot sparkled faintly in the light. And Rowan felt a deep connection to the land, to the magic and the mystery that had revealed itself only to those patient and respectful enough to earn it. A gentle warmth settling in his chest despite the chill, a memory to carry forever as the cabin came into view, familiar and welcoming against the winter landscape. Rowan paused, glancing back toward the mountains, mist curling around peaks, concealing the valley entirely, and he felt a quiet joy, knowing it would remain untouched and perfect, a secret shared only between them and the mountains. And he murmured softly to the traveler, "It stays with us, and us alone." And as they stepped inside the warm cabin, the scent of pine and burning wood embracing them, the fire crackling gently, Rowan leaned back, feeling the mountain's silent blessing, the valley hidden once more, but alive in their hearts. A quiet magic they would carry forever, a soft promise that some wonders are meant to be protected, cherished, and remembered in gentle awe.